But what we found is in surveying many top producers, I'm talking about $4 or $5 million producers and above, their goal is typically, how can I have 50 to 70 decent conversations with individuals a week?
Welcome to The Growth Mindset, the podcast for ambitious real estate and mortgage professionals. Hosted by Adam Crossley and Rick Riddle, this show dives into entrepreneurial strategies, sales techniques, and mindset hacks designed to fuel your career growth. Get ready to learn from top producers, gain actionable insights, and start your journey towards success. Here's your hosts, Adam and Rick.
All right, welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Growth Mindset Podcast. I'm Rick Riddle with my co-host,
Adam Crossley.
I am really excited today, Adam. Stoked.
Hi, brother. Dude, we've been talking about today for a very long time, and here it is.
We actually wanted to wait to bring our guest on until we became a 1% podcast, right? So they said that 99% podcasts don't make it past the 22nd episode, and this, I believe, is going to be episode number 26. So we felt like we earned our stripes, so we could invite our guest. Do you want to do the intros, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. So our guest today is actually both mine and Rick's personal business coach. So have the honor of welcoming Kevin Gillespie here today, and Kevin's been a good friend and a mentor of both of us for a very long time, and really, really excited to pick your brain, Kevin. Kevin runs the Leadership Academy with Mortgage Marketing Animals. He's been, sought after in the mortgage industry for a very long time, been a leader, has coached hundreds of people in the mortgage space, and just honored to have you here with us today, Kevin.
Hey, well, guys, I'm honored and I'm humbled because you call me coach and mentor. And the truth is, I think of us as brainstorming together and collaborators because, man, I learned just as much from you, if not more, than probably you get from me. So I'm honored to be here and think the world of you guys and watching your growth and what you've done and how you've helped other loan officers grow their business. Has been, especially in this market, it's been an exciting thing to watch. It's
been fun. And look, you inspired us. I think you actually inspired us to do this podcast. So if it wasn't for you, it'd just be me and Adam by ourselves talking to each other.
We'd be out kicking tires. I mean,
not recording it, not doing anything. We would just be talking, and that'd be it. And we'd go on our day. So
we just wouldn't be getting record. I mean, we'd be
right. I tell Adam that I love doing these. We record these on Mondays. At least I think today's Monday, right?
Yeah.
So and it makes my day. Right. And
honestly, it makes my week. It's such a great way to tee off the week and get everything going. But Kevin, we owe that to you, brother. And thank you so much. And we're really excited to pick your brain, learn a little bit about who Kevin Gillespie is, how you got in this wild mortgage industry that you've been a master of for so long. And so tell us, how did you get to where you are now, and what led you?
Well, again, thank you, guys. I'm probably 100 years older than both of you. I've been in the business forever. I got into the business. I was selling homes for a builder and had been married with a couple of kids and was working weekends with the builder all the time. And I was just trying to find something with a little more quality of life, a little more control on my time. And somebody introduced me to the mortgage business. I had no idea. And that was back in 1983. So it goes back a ways, right? So I started as an assistant loan officer and then became a loan officer. Within about a year and a half, became a top producer in the city of Houston, and then a branch manager, and then a regional. And then the company I was working for moved me out to the West Coast and ran production for they had bought a big bank. And then they wanted to move me to Maryland. My kids were in high school. So long story short, I moved companies there and joined a company called CTX, which was owned by Centex Home, the fourth largest builder in the nation. And they had a large mortgage company that did both retail and builder stuff. And over time, I went from a regional to head of the builder production to president of the and COO of the company. During the housing crunch, they merged with Pulte. Pulte already had a mortgage company. And so I ended up joining a company up in Wisconsin, the Waterstone, which was a bank, publicly held bank, owned mortgage company. And we grew that to $3.5 billion. So I've had the blessing of working with some large companies and a few small ones kind of in between. So a little bit of everything, but I just, you know what it's like. It gets into your blood, right? And so it has been one of those that has given me a great living. And then for the last 8 years, I'm no longer in corporate mortgage for the last several years, but I just coach leaders like yourself. And we've got a great group. And it's interesting to watch because we see people, and you guys see it, you have done it, and helped loan officers grow by struggling in this business. And how do you get to the next level? Mm-hmm. And so we talk about structuring your branches right, structuring your teams right, and a lot of focus on sales and getting them to the next level. Carl and I had written a book, best-selling book on Amazon, Crushing Call Reluctance for Loan Officers. And, oh, look at you, man. Look at you. Yeah, man, I got you. Man, that's cool. Yeah. But so anyways, that was pretty much it. And today I just enjoy what I'm doing with the coaching because I get to work with awesome people like you.
So let me ask you this. How did you and Carl meet? How did you get into coaching and mortgage marketing animals? How did that?
Good question. It's interesting. I had, at Waterstone, I had several loan officers that were being coached. And I went and met with the coaching. I went to one of their events, and it was a different coaching group. And though they were getting great results, there was a difference in the culture than what I thought our culture was. And nothing bad against that other group. They were helping some people. And so I was saying, man, I'm looking for somebody who'd fit our culture. And they introduced me to Carl. And I went to one of Carl's events. And he and I quickly became close, good friends. And I had him coach me for a while. And then after a while, I told him, hey, a lot of loan officers here, and what you teach is great. But a lot of your people are branch managers, are company owners. How do we help them? Because as you know, most of us get in this business and we get to where we're at, not because we're the most strategic or we're the best leader, but more because we did good production. And so we were trying to fill in that gaps. And so we've been working together. I've got people, we've been doing this for 8 years. I think I got 1 or 2 people still with me for the full 8. I've got several people in the kind of 4 to 6 year range. I mean, you guys have been with us quite a long time. And so, yeah, it's a very nice, supportive. Most importantly, even though they could be competition, it's a sharing group that just helps one another. That's kind of one of the rules. No jerks allowed. You got to be willing to share. And that's why you guys fit in so well. You're awesome.
And I got to admit, I think that the culture, which comes from you, right? Because I mean, from Leadership Academy, and I guess you and Carl, but basically your group emulates you. And I think that's one of the things that I've been in coaching groups before, and what I like about this one is the sharing, is that kind of culture. And it's a culture that we at Crown want to have as well, is that, we're here to help everybody, and there's no enemies, right? And even if you're working in a different company, right, we can all learn from each other and self-improve. So I appreciate your help on that. And you've been awesome, generous with your time of helping our group. We have over 100 loan officers, and not all of them are in MMA, and actually 99% of them are not, but you've volunteered and helped us a lot. And which I kind of want to get to. So obviously, Call Reluctance, right? So tell me about what inspired you? I mean, that book is awesome, and the classes that you teach are awesome. It is a very psychological, I guess, psychology of sales book. Like, what inspired you to write that? How did that come about?
Well, good question. like I was always getting frustrated from the management side because I would see all these smart, intelligent, very capable people really struggling and earning a fraction of what they could in the business. And I thought, was it, the marketing? Was it, what was it? I really came to a conclusion of, I think it might be call reluctance. And I did a lot of study on NLP and hypnosis and different strategies and how the mind works. I'm just interested in that kind of thing more as a hobby. And when you think about it, it's true because, and you guys have seen this, but today in the U.S., even in this market, 10,000 homes a day sell, roughly. It's right around that number, and it'll come back and grow even more. And what we did is we've studied this, we've seen this again and again and again. If we can, the average loan officer thinks they're working hard at creating business, but they really only make about 10 calls a week in interviews of hundreds. We've seen them. They've all, well, how much of you are really focusing on this piece of growing your business and building relationships? Now, maybe an hour, 2 hours a week. Some people an hour a day. But what we found is in surveying many top producers, I'm talking about $4 or $5 million producers and above, their goal is typically, how can I have 50 to 70 decent conversations with individuals a week? And if you think about it, if you did 50 a week over 12 weeks, man, it's just your volume just goes exponential. It just is crazy. And so literally what happens when you do that, you go from doing 50 in a week to all of a sudden, that's 600 conversations in 12 weeks. That's 2,100 conversations in a year. Whose business wouldn't grow if you had 2,100 conversations? We see it again and again. We have one woman down in the Carolinas that went through our call reluctance. She'd been doing the call thing, and it was just brutal on her. And after we got her to overcome her call reluctance, and it was pretty easy to do, all of a sudden she started making calls like crazy. And within about 60 days, she did 17 loans. Another guy had been calling on builders, and all of a sudden, in about 60 days, took $20 million in applications. It works. And Adam, you were living proof of this because you had made call. I won't have it. You fill in the gap here. But what I remember is like you started back last November and started making your calls, and it started slowly, even through the winter, start to build. And then all of a sudden, back in March, you closed like 17 or 18 loans. Then
High teen loans all year. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it works if you do. And I think the average person doesn't do the work because they're scared and they have that call reluctance. Sometimes that phone weighs 10,000 pounds, and just playing the little games and tricks with yourself to get it going is all it really takes. And, we commend you for leading the way and bringing light to this, because it is easy to get through once you get through it and get the practice, but getting going is hard.
But let me brag on you two for a minute, because you started your own call sessions with your team.
Yep.
And I'm going by memory, is last year, your top 5 producers increased their business like almost 100%. And they were all involved in overcoming the call reluctance and making the calls and your regular call session. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it went up 92%. And you know what it is? It's like if you go to the gym and you've never been, you need to work out, you're motivated, and you walk into the gym, it can be really, really intimidating, right? Yeah, if you've never really, you see, people in ridiculous shape, pumping iron, and you're like, I don't even know how to use that machine, let alone afraid, and you don't want to be embarrassed, right? And that's really call reluctance, right? Is that that fear of failure, or that fear of the effort not performing. And I think that going through your call reluctance class kind of helped put that clarity of it's working on that craft, but it's basically just get out and do it. And putting those fears aside, right? And I think that's probably, in sales is the number one inhibitor is that fear of rejection, right? And there's always, like, you see those things that say, imagine what you could accomplish if there was no such thing as fear. And, call reluctance is probably the fear, right? I mean, it's a fear of failure. It's a fear of rejection. It's and I know you go a lot deeper into about, am I worthy? And your monkey mind type, like, playing tricks on you and telling you all the reasons why not, when it's really simple. It's just, call it. It's funny. I joke about this business. It's not like we're, and there's nothing wrong with this profession, but it's not like we're sitting in 120-degree heat, like laying, tarring a roof, right? I think about, what's that movie, Shawshank Redemption, when they're all like on top of the roof, like, that's work. We're just talking about, like,
I mean, I do some taxes for a couple beers.
yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right, because what happens is, since our mind, our mind is really the subconscious mind, and the base of our mind is built to protect us and solve problems. And so the logical thinking at the top of our brain, right, in the cortex, what happens whenever we have nervousness or fear, the challenge is the brain doesn't know the difference between the lion outside the cave or the realtor on the other end of the phone. They rate them the same, right? It really does. And that gets what as you mentioned, the monkey mind, which is a Buddhist term, gets your mind racing, and it'll do it subconsciously. You may not even know it's happening. And it will get you looking for something else to do that's easier, better, funner, faster. We'll look for the silver bullet, some other way to get contacts. And those things help. Some of the CRMs and the different things, they all help, but it's a relationship that needs to be built. And so we teach about 17 different techniques that help you just calm your mind and give you that confidence. And of course, the scripts that go do this, and people do it. And in fact, today, if we got time, we can share a couple of tips that would help everybody. But literally, because your mind is you kind of work in one of two modes. So what happens is your mind is, you are either in kind of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is very calm, joyous, relaxed. You're creative. And when you can operate from that, life's pretty good. But most of us, especially when it comes to making calls, and until we overcome this call reluctance, operate out of a sympathetic nervous system, which is where you're nervous, there's anxiety, there's frustration, there's anger. You're ready to fight or flight. You get nervous, you start talking faster, you're looking for other things to do. And that's the call reluctance setting in. But again, whether you do it with Adam and Rick or myself or whomever, find somebody to help you overcome that call reluctance, and you can change your business in 60 days. And we see it again and again and again. And so we got several examples.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? I think so. Little secret, and maybe I think you guys may know, I used to do stand-up comedy, and I went to a comedy school, and even the Louis C.K., Chris Rock, like, they were all in New York at the time when I was doing stand-up comedy. They all said the same thing. If you don't go on stage, if you're not nervous going on stage, then you're doing it wrong. So even the professionals are nervous, and they just channel that nervousness, right? They use that nervous energy. When they're not nervous, they're overconfident, and when they're overconfident, it's usually when they bomb, right? So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that they said in that school, is that it's okay to be nervous. You just got to embrace it and not run from it, right? And public speaking, right? They say something like is the biggest fear, right? It's the same, it's that fear of, I know you say, like, am I not, I think one of the parts of call reluctance about the worthiness, I always think it's like, I don't want to screw it up, so I'm just not going to do anything. And I think that's where a lot of loan officers, like, they're getting ready to get ready, right? Like they got their scripts, and then they're like, got my list. I'm like, all right, I did that work today. I got my list of 50 names. I'm not going to call them today because I got to work on my scripts. And then you perfect your script. You're like, you know what? It's not perfect yet for me. It's not my own voice. I feel weird. I'm not going to do it today. And next thing you know, they wake up, 6 months later and they haven't done anything.
Oh, I got an email. Let's get lost in email or what?
Right.
Yeah. But it's true. You're always going to have the butterflies. It's teaching them to fly in formation, and
yeah, typically
what's that, Gav?
go ahead.
I'll tell you the one trick that I learned from you, and I have my little Arnie man on my windowsill, is I've got 10 of them. And like on the days I don't want to play, like I line up my 10 Army men and I at least get through 10 calls. And we're all salespeople, right? Like even on the days that I don't want to perform, I don't want to work, by the time I get to the 4th, 5th, 6th call, I'm just in my groove. And then all the fear goes away and all melts away. But it's because I've got a lot of practice as well. But that's just it. It's as you say, it's doing it until you're having fun. And then once you're having fun, it's joyful to make it do
Exactly. Yeah, it's like going to the gym example after you worked out for what, right? There's days you don't want to go to the gym, but you make yourself go. And man, once you go, you're so glad you did it. Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
The hardest step to go into the gym is the first step.
It's just getting into the front door sometimes,
Yeah. And I think that from just this podcast, right? I think that we, Adam and I didn't know what we were doing. We just started doing it, right? And I guarantee that the podcast today sounds better than the episode 1, right? And we got better just by doing it. And I think that, we were talking before in the green room about, a book that I'm reading called Inner Excellence, and it kind of talks about that it's okay to fail. We actually did a podcast last week or 2 weeks ago on failure, and failure's okay. It's never failure till you quit, right? And I think that that's what happens is this call reluctance is if you only fail if you stay in neutral and you don't get into first gear. But once you get into first gear, it's okay if you stall out. You just start out and keep on going and plugging away, and you'll get to your destination just by, if you can put that behind you and just go forward.
You get it behind you. And the last time I did a boot camp on this, we had about 90 people in the class, and I took the responses from the 90 people. What goes through your head? What is, some people didn't, I'm not afraid. Well, what's your concern, right? And we came down, there were about 15 that were very common. And so, I don't want to be disturbing other people. I don't want to sound like I'm too needy. I don't want to sound salesy, right? How can I add value? So all these things like that are running through our head. I'm afraid of the rejection. I'm afraid of the fear of failure, right? I'm disappointed and feel unprepared. I feel like I'm tap dancing. And all these different thoughts go through your mind, and subconsciously then when that's happening, until you overcome it, and it's a process, but the process isn't hard. It's just you got to do it, and but once you do it, your nervous system will calm down. You'll get better, just as Rick you just pointed out. It's kind of like the kid hitting the piñata, right? And they're blindfolded, and at first they're swinging and missing, and then they start to connect, and then you do it again and again and again, and then finally, man, all the candy comes flying out. And that's what overcoming call reluctance is like, and the same with your business. So if you can do this and overcome it, willing to commit for 2 months, and Rick, you and Adam can help. You've got a call session if somebody wanted to talk to you about joining it, learning out something about this. Yeah. But I suggest, guys, if you're listening to this and you have call reluctance, and by the way, 99, probably, let's be conservative, 90% of the people do, right?
I mean, but I don't know if it ever really goes away, right? I mean, I've call reluctance every day, but I muscle through it, and that's okay. And I think that that's where something that changed my life, and I know, Adam, we may have talked about in the podcast before, but Kevin, you kind of introduced it to us, is that the 7-Eleven 4, right? 7 hours of relationship building over 11 different times across 4 different mediums. And what I've kind of learned is don't sell. That phone call is just build a relationship, frog them, friends, why am I all of a sudden? Recreation, occupation, and goals, right? So I've taken a lot of pressure off of my call reluctance phone calls, and I do a little bit different. I do more realtor or loan officer recruiting and some high level, business development with owners of real estate companies. But I just get to know them. And it was actually Carl White, we talk about him all the time, challenged Adam and said, go get coffee appointments and don't use the word mortgage. Don't go out to lunch with him, buy him a cup of coffee. And that kind of changed my life in terms of like, they know why you're calling, right? So they know you're a mortgage person, right? Just build a relationship and see what happens. And don't even sell what your product is,
It all comes from relationship.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, but guys, go through the process and help yourself. If you want to change your life, if you think making an extra $10,000 or $15,000 a month would change your life, take the pressure off the stress, take the stress off the relationship at home. What would it do for your birthdays and vacations and holidays and building up for retirement? This number one thing will help you do that. I guarantee it. And so there's ways around it. And if you want, do we have time to share a couple ideas?
Of course. Yeah, please.
Let's do that. So guys, if you're listening to this, we're going to share a few things. We teach, it's over 16 different techniques. And when you combine them together, man, it really is a web that makes a huge difference. But the first thing I'm going to tell you when you make your calls, to Rick's point, is you got to relax, start talking slower. And the reason is when you're talking faster, they can hear your nervousness on the other line. You can hear it. So there is something about nervousness that tells people, wait a minute, there isn't that confidence there. So you just
stand off,
relax, be authentic, be yourself, slow down your conversation like when you're hanging out with your buddies, and that will also slow down your mind. And then the other thing to do, tip 2, is if you need to, stand up. Because what happens is when you stand up, a couple things happen. Is one, you breathe deeper. It opens up your airways. You sound more authoritative, but also nervousness goes out through your hands and feet. And when you do that and you can kind of move any nervousness, your body stops signaling to the brain to be nervous, and it will calm you down. It'll make, believe it or not, it'll make the calls easier.
That's what, that's funny because when I make my calls, I'm always pacing and walking around.
No.
Always.
Yeah.
Like I'll walk like, if I'm in an office building, all of a sudden I'll like get done a call and realize I'm like a mile from my desk. And I've walked in circles for like
10,000 steps today. I was just,
and I wonder if that's, I wonder if it's the nervous energy. I'm just kind of walking it out. I never even thought about that consciously. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that'll make a difference. Here's the number one thing you're going to want to try to do. And it will make the biggest difference. It sounds very easy, what I'm about to say. It's a little more difficult there. It takes a little bit of training, but what you're trying to do when you make your calls, what happens, and the reason when we make our calls, we're nervous is because we've labeled in association with what if they reject me? You put some in your mind, you have labeled a meaning to it. And that meaning usually isn't positive, so it makes you nervous. And so what you got to do is disconnect from whatever they tell you. Just say, I'm going to make the next 15 calls. I don't care what they say. They can tell me yes. They can tell me they want to meet with me. They can tell me no. They can tell me to never call them again. The answer doesn't matter. And I think it was you two. Didn't you have a contest?
Yeah, I was going to say.
So many no's?
Yeah, it's whoever we did a sales contest where it's whoever has the most no's wins. Because we knew that whoever has the most no's will probably have the most yeses, right? And so don't worry about it. Just go for no. And I agree with you. It's funny. It's again. I was, like I said, I was talking in the green room about the internal excellence. Internal excellence. And they basically said the same thing. Like, don't worry about the process. Don't worry about the result. And it was geared towards athletes, right? And it talked about how, athletes, like, they always have these dreams of, winning the Super Bowl or winning the world. Every athlete, every kid, I mean, I'm not athletic. I wish I was, dreamed about, bottom of the ninth, 3-on, 0-2 pitch, and you're hitting a home run to win the World Series. But they said, it actually is not fun in the long term, right? People suffer from depression, even when they are the hero of the baseball game, because that was the mountain that they climbed, but the real mountain was the journey, right? And I think that call reluctance, right? Like you said, don't worry about the outcome, just worry about the path and the journey you're on of just knowing that doing those sales activities will lead to results in the long run.
Well, and if you think that's a great point, because if you think about it, great coaches like Tom Landry or Nick Saban, it was always, the guys had the winningest records, right? It was always about the process. Yeah. So if you can build this process and just reduce this nervousness and get through your calls. So let me give you a couple more ideas. One, get a sheet of paper, draw 3 columns. And the first column, whatever your fear is, whatever your challenge is about making calls, whatever your excuse is, write it down. And then in the next column, write almost the opposite to it. So in other words, that's your limiting belief in the first column. The second column is what's the new belief you should build. And it's usually pretty close to the opposite thing, right? That whatever your fear is. And then every day you make calls in the third column, even if it's a small, tiny, insignificant win, I want you to write it down. And the reason is because we've all done, where we've written down these statements, they tell us to repeat these affirmations. And after you repeat them for a couple of days, you don't really believe it. You go, this doesn't work. Well, that's because your mind's looking for proof. And what you want to do is start showing your mind, I made my calls today, and I did get one person who wanted to meet with me. Maybe a couple days later, man, I had 3 people say yes to me. And it starts building up the proof that your mind then starts to let go of the limiting belief. Okay, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
None of the realtors turn into saber-toothed tigers today.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing I'm going to suggest, I got 2 more. And the other thing I'm going to suggest, if you're going to sit down and make calls for an hour, now you should do it with a group. Just having a group with you will make it easier. And so what do you call your crown?
We call them the royalty calls. Yeah,
the royalty call session. Perfect. So just whatever that call session is, don't you find that just by having you're on a Zoom meeting, they can't hear what you're saying, but just knowing I'm on the call, and even though Rick and Adam cannot hear what I'm saying, man, I got my brothers there with me. I got some friends. I feel a little more support. Don't you see that with your team and their?
Yeah, we're in the foxhole together. It's like we're on. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, whatever your call session is, here's what I want you to do. I want you to break it down to a 15-minute segment. So you take these couple exercises, and as you learn more of them, what you do for the first 2 minutes of your call session, you do your exercises and get your head ready. Just like the athlete puts the headphones on and you see them walking into the stadium, they're getting into the zone. And so you do that for about 2 minutes, and then you make calls for 15 minutes. Then I want you to take a break, just like you'd go to the gym and you do a couple of sets, and then you take a break. You don't do set after set after set and work out for 2 hours straight lifting weights. You usually break it down and you give yourself, and when you do that, you take a break at 15 minutes. You don't go into email. You don't go on to Facebook. You don't do any of that. You might get up and stretch your legs. Start again after a couple minutes, do another 15 minutes, but you do your exercises, get back in the mindset. And all of a sudden, when you break it in, there isn't anybody listening to this that couldn't make calls after they kind of go through the extra for 15 minutes, right? There isn't anybody who couldn't handle that. And what you'll find is you'll build on it and build on it, and pretty soon it'll be easier. So I want you to break it into small segments you know you can win. Okay.
I love that. It's like what they call it, interval on the treadmill, right? Doing intervals, right?
Exactly.
You know, because if you said, "Hey, I'm gonna," like I remember I did a couch to 5K, right? And you're like, I'll run for 30 minutes. Like you're not gonna just get off a couch and run for 30 minutes. You know, you're like, you don't realize how slow time is until you're sitting on a treadmill, right? And or running on a treadmill. Then you realize, wow, 90 seconds is a long time. It's the same with phone calls, right? You've got to build that muscle up, right? So to say, hey, we're going to have a call session for 2 hours, that's daunting. But like you said, 15 minutes, go listen to some music, you know, eat a chocolate bar as a reward, and a Hershey Kiss as your reward, or knock down your army man. And now it's do it again, right? And, it's a lot easier to break it into little chunks. So
yeah, it's 100%. So here's the last technique we'll share. And then I want to share an idea that hopefully everybody will follow and it'll help them but there's one, it's called the havening technique, like safe haven. Now, this was developed by a doctor up at Harvard, a neurologist, a doctor, I think it's Ron Rudin. I think I said that correctly. And he's designed this to help trauma patients, people coming back from war with PTSD, rape victims. I mean, people who've really got nervousness and anxiety. And what you do real easily is you rub your hands back and forth, listening to, but you rub them from your elbows to your shoulders, and you think about the anxiety, and then you think about, while rubbing your shoulders, about walking along the beach and listening to the waves hit. And what that does is it floods your brain with delta waves, which are very calming type mindset waves. And then when you're done, and like you've taken 20 steps, you keep your eyes closed and you move your eyeballs to the left and to the right, and to the left and to the right. And guys, I'm telling you, Adam's aware of this because he's seen me do it. My wife was recently in the hospital. She's doing fine now, but her heart was racing, and I would do this, and I would watch her heartbeat drop 15 points. And the right reason I did it for her, I wouldn't have thought of doing it in the hospital, but Marty Feek, one of our people that went through the boot camp, said, Kevin, I could watch it on my Apple Watch, and my heart would drop. And she's one of the people who went and she did like 17 or 18 loans in a month soon after doing this. So try that havening technique. And then the last thing I'd recommend, if it's okay with you guys,
For sure.
is, guys, if you think overcoming call reluctance will help you, reach out to Adam and Rick here, and they can help you and kind of tell you about their crown call session. And then if we get enough folks interested, well, just for that group, we'll do a free, no obligation, no problem. We'll do a free session for an hour, hour and a half on overcoming call reluctance. But Rick and Adam already know this stuff as well as I do. They can help you. But if you want, I'll do it too. But man, reach out to these guys. I've watched them change several loan officers' lives that had joined their company. They're not hard sell. You couldn't talk to two nicer people.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the offer. I think that hopefully our listeners take advantage of that, because I think that's awesome. And I can tell you, we did that as a company. Kevin did it for our loan officers, and it changed, it changed our trajectories. And, we have a guy that was on probably about 2 months ago, Jeff Chang, who went from, he's brand new in the business. When I say brand new, started right before COVID, 2018, 2019. And, post-COVID, he was closing 16 million, and now he's going to close 50 million this year. So
he's kicking butt. That's fun to watch him, isn't it?
It is. It's
He's got double his business 2 years in a row, and it's so tough. Like it's
yeah. So
well, you guys give the support and help your team. So if you want to find out more, I suggest you do that.
we appreciate it, man, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate you leading the charge. We just emulate what we see from our mentors, and Kev, I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming on here today. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that we should have?
Yeah. You didn't ask me to come out and hang up in New York with
You're more than welcome, bro. I
live in Austin. So
I'll tell you now,
Adam, did you notice how Rick, now that he's getting skinny, he's getting in shape and losing, all his examples had to do with going to the gym and working out.
That's right.
Got his brain. It's great.
Usually the old analogies are about eating pizza. So this is probably a better one. And
So
Kevin,
what
anytime
percentage
you
of this pie can we eat to that?
That's right. Well, anytime, Kevin, that you want to come up to the Adirondacks when it's too hot in Austin, Texas, you're more than welcome. Me and Adam are about an hour away from each other, so I'm looking at his picture behind him. I am on one peak, and he's like 4 peaks over is him. So.
See, guys, when you overcome call reluctance, you can kind of invite yourself and not even feel bad about it.
That's right.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and Kevin, we appreciate you so much, and thank you for taking time to coming on to the Growth Mindset podcast. And Adam, there's nothing more that you want to add?
Nope, that's it, brother.
All right, then we'll pass it on to our boy Eric to give the legalese so we can stay in, and you can listen to another episode of the Growth Mindset podcast. So thank you all for listening. Until next time, have a great day.
Cheers.
You've been listening to The Growth Mindset, hosted by Adam Crossley and Rick Riddle. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your colleagues. Stay tuned for more actionable insights to fuel your career success. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily reflect the official policies, positions, or opinions of Absolute Home Mortgage Corporation or Crown Home Mortgage. The content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice or an official endorsement by either organization.